was unique. He was different. He walked to the beat of his own drum. He was very curious, great sense of humor. He was just Buddy.
And he was just a gentle soul. You know, his heart was very soft and loving and just what I needed. We thought, hey, you know, we'd be lucky if we had 10 years. We'd be grateful if we had 10 years. We ended up having 28 years. So I can't be anything but happy about that.
He would have been the first to tell you that he did a lot of work on himself and introspection. So he was many different things.
I remember him as a big thinker, as a very open-minded person, as a very generous person, would help people out in any way he could.
He had a kind of personality that was just not at all aggressive and so on. He just was quite willing always to softly listen to other people's point of views.
If you could imagine Yoda as a person, that is Buddy. Like this little guy who is almost like out of this world, like very unique, out of this world. He could be like 400 years old or he could be 70 years old, you don't know. But he just kind of had this like happy, calm presence, kind of like a wise old sage.
He's just so good at being present in the conversation, and you can feel that he actually cares.
Very caring, loving person who was interested in everything, particularly the unexplainable.
Our department was the one that in the 1960s where we were trying to develop a whole new approach to the field of psychology. And Buddy and I wanted to be part of that. And that was called humanistic psychology or existentialist psychology, not scientific psychology. So that was the claim to fame of our department.
He was a questing person and hungry for meaning, and really, really curious about, you know, what comes after this mortal coil.
And he was doing all sorts of courses with alternative literature about different spiritual phenomenon, paranormal phenomenon, alternative ways of thinking about the mind. And it was so hard to get the literature in that his initial thought was actually, why don't I just start a bookstore? Like, that's kind of an incredible thing to me. And it was cool hearing him talk about that too, and how he just sort of made it happen. He just sort of went ahead and did it.
You could read about a phenomenon in the history books, but then he was like a living embodiment of having, you know, he was involved in sit-ins in the American South for racial justice, and like it was just like unbelievable to have someone sitting in my parents' living room in Regina, like, that had done that. It was just like crazy.
His brain was just built differently, and he was just one of the most interesting people to talk to. So interesting, had so many stories, has lived so many lives.
He was so present in your conversations and had a way of just like kind of making everything else sort of blur out and like making you feel so special.
You know, he was one of those people that when he's talking to you and you're talking about something that's of interest to him and to yourself, nothing else exists but you and that person, he and that person. One of my favorite stories is after we were married, we waited 6 months and then we went to India for our special time together. And I had never been to India before, but he had been there before with other friends and loved it and so wanted to go there. And I was happy to go. And so I had not been on a train in India before, and it was quite an experience because there are so many people there. You know, you don't dare lose your way or lose your companion, or you're not going to find them again because there are billions of people there, as we know. So there we were on the train, and the first stop, I don't recall the tiny town, but the first stop, the first thing that Buddy wanted to do was run out to the platform and meet people there and start talking to them, which I thought was wonderful. So away he went, and you know, I could see him gesticulating as he's talking, and he's in deep conversation with these people. And then all of a sudden the toot toot of the train goes, and the train starts to move ever so slowly, and Buddy's out there on the platform. I'm inside on the train, never having been to India before, not speaking the language. And I'm thinking, well, you know, he's heard that and he's going to come back. And no, he wasn't. He was still talking to these people. And, you know, so the train is, you know, very slow to begin and gradually picking up speed, picking up enough speed to go past where Buddy is on the platform. And I'm sitting there, alarmed, but, you know, hopeful that, you know, he'll catch on. And, you know, we're going a little further away from him. And, you know, we're near the end of the platform and Buddy is still not on the train. So I'm thinking, oh my, what am I going to do? I don't speak the language. I don't know what even to say to people. And, you know, just as we're pulling away from the platform, I feel this tap on my shoulder behind me. He's come from the back he leapt on the back car of the train, and he'd run all the way down to our seat. So just as we were leaving, he is in his seat. I thought, oh, this is going to be an interesting relationship. That's what I thought. And it was.
Buddy's the reason that I believe in aliens. He's the reason I believe in ghosts and spirits and hauntings and reincarnation and Loch Ness monsters. And like, he made the world so much bigger.
I remember being in high school and having a friend come to one of my potlucks, and I was prepping her on like what she could expect, because I was like very aware that the group dynamics were like pretty specific, not bad, but like maybe a bit weird. So I was like, there is a man who's extremely tiny and very nice, and he will probably start talking to you about ghosts or aliens or both, which is cool. But just in case, you're like, is this normal? Yes, it is.
I can't not, though, leave out how fun it was to introduce like all of my wayward partners throughout the years to Buddy. They always left with just like the funnest stories. And like, this guy was talking to me about like, who knows, whatever, right?
My first impression of him was, what a bizarre old man. I can't wait to get to know him more. That was my thought process, was that guy is the weirdest person I've ever met in my life, and I cannot wait to get to know him at a deeper level. I can't wait.
It was always one of my favorite things to do, like, oh, I'm gonna bring you to a cult gathering and like set Buddy loose on you and just see what happens. It was so fun.
A continual trait throughout was his sense of play, his sense of humor, and his capacity for joy and also just delight. He had this old van that the back didn't close tight, and sometimes me and my brother would lie in the back, and he'd go on the empty road, dirt road there, and slalom, not too fast, but the back would be flapping open, and we'd be lying in the back screaming, you know, and rolling around a bit as the van went this way or that way. And, you know, these games that today would be considered, you know, you shouldn't do that with your kids, but we had a fun time. And he was always approaching life frequently with a spontaneous spirit of living in the moment and being joyful in it.
I feel like when he spoke, everyone listened. It was like at a party, we would all have our own conversations and Buddy would start talking to somebody, and within a couple of minutes, you would notice no one else in the party was talking. We were all just kind of, what's Buddy talking about?
We all went to a place called The Haven, which is kind of an institution on Gabriola Island where you could go for personal development and work on some of your issues and stuff like that. And he, within no time at all, he started becoming the guru. People called him the guru, just like that. You know, he always sat in kind of the way he sat. He didn't do it deliberately to put on some sham display or anything. He just sat in a way, and we all referred to him as the guru.
In the garage at my mother's house, in the deep freeze, I'd opened up the top of the deep freeze and I was like head down in it looking for something and rooting around in big bags. And Dad came over. Was he going to pick me up to bring me over to his place or something like that? He came over and he thought it would be fun, his sense of fun, to sneak up on me and then yell boo at the top of his voice once he got in the garage. So he did that and I startled and I went wah, and my bag of frozen pierogies that I happened to just have hit him right in the eye, and he actually got a black eye from it. But, you know, he thought that was the funniest thing. He was there holding his eye and going, ow, but he was laughing.
You know, when you go to workshops, they have a coffee break. So there was a coffee break. People were going for coffee and standing around talking. And my son suddenly says to me, where's Buddy? And so I was looking around and I could see, you know, a sea of faces. And then off in the corner, I saw a pair of feet. That was Buddy standing on his head. He said rather than drinking coffee, he'd rather get some blood going to his brain. And that was the thing about Buddy. He wasn't self-conscious about being different. You know, there's everybody drinking coffee and he doesn't go off somewhere, you know, private. He just went into a corner and just did his thing.
I feel like being exposed to him almost allowed you to be whoever you wanted to be and gave like like some freedom, I think, in becoming who you wanted to be.
What I will remember is the friendship we had, you know, the ones that last, and that you have this somebody who knows you and you know, accepts you unconditionally.
We were just kind of birds of a feather who lived on the same tree for a few decades. And we had a lot of interesting times together. And doesn't get better than that.
I will remember how much he just loved everybody, especially Jean.
He would constantly say, Jeannie, I'm so glad we got married. I'm so glad you said yes. That was so sweet. I mean, you know, how can I be sad? I had a person I lived with who had that level of caring for me. It's just such a gift in life.
It's cool how he continues to teach us, like, even though he's not physically here with us, but I'm sure he has something to say.
People are going to teach their kids what Buddy taught them. And those kids are going to grow up knowing Buddy's lessons. And it's like that. We're talking like hundreds of years of knowledge. Like, he's just timeless.
Came into my life as if by chance. From another dimension, you loved the dance. Between now and what comes next, vibrant life and shadowland. I'll always remember your kindness, the timeless presence you left. You were out of this world. You were out of this world. You gifted endless lessons, helped me learn to love the questions. Oh, gentle, curious sage, a legacy of loving, tender ways. What flies above, what lies below, deep in your heart, I hope you know. You were out of this world. You were out of this world. You gifted endless lessons, helped me learn to love the questions.